printed colored copies for you if you're interested, and they're available for $10, and they're laminated, and make it easy, save you a lot of trouble to try to print them, because they're very difficult to print on the internet unless you have a really big printer that can handle large graphics. Even the computer stores that I went to had trouble printing it, so you might have difficulty trying to do it on your own. Shit.
Bob, if there's anything you want to repeat for the purpose of the tape, go right ahead. If I missed anything.
Okay. Yeah. The original lawnmower engine that I used, if you look at the pictures there, you'll see it says Rickle on the mower. That mower was the original lawnmower I had in my garage for the last 20 years, I guess. And I discovered that the reason I forgot why I had stuck it in the back of the garage, but it had a bent shaft on it. So when you're out dumpster diving for your lawnmower engines, that should be the first thing you check to make sure it doesn't have a bent shaft. Because it will vibrate, and we had some problems with it because of that. And that's why we had to switch over to this other engine. I just picked this engine up last week, so you can see that it doesn't take that long to switch them over. I did it in an afternoon, basically. Switched everything over to here. Okay, now it's tight now. The next thing you have to do is to insert your pipe. Now, the middle pipe, or the outside pipe here, is a standard 12-inch nipple with the two reducing elbows. Then you have to get the inside pipe cut down and threaded on both ends to the proper length to match up to whatever you come up with. And I put the dimensions that I used on there. So we'll slide this in here now. And on each end, we use a copper washer to help seal it. And it's a standard 22 millimeter or 7/8 inch oil plug on an engine washer. And you get another elbow, or I mean T. Put that on the other end here. Oh, might help if I put the rod in. One thing that's not on the plans there, I just did this week, I found that I was having problems with the engine not starting a couple times. And I discovered what was going on was the rod was either sliding all the way up to the top or all the way to the bottom, and then it would get caught in the brass reducing part here and block off the airflow. So what we did is we went out and got a coat hanger and twisted it so it was just barely with like a T on the end, so it barely fits into the pipe here, and it sticks, and it centers the rod in the middle here. So we stick the rod in. The other thing that you might want to look at here is the magnetics of this. Is the rod on both ends points to due north, but halfway down through here it'll flip around to south, right there. South, and flip back to north. And that's this particular rod is a iron rod. You don't have to use iron. You can use steel.
Was that used in a processor before, or just
No,
that way?
it's just been used in here. It was plain metal before. If you use a steel rod, it'll do the same thing. And basically, the way you tune your rods to work with the fuel processor is that you go down until the compass swings to the south again. And that's how long you want your rod to be. So this rod is about twice as long as it needs to be for the fuel that I'm running. So I could cut it off down here, but Paul says don't cut a rod that's already got a signature. Just cut a fresh rod that's that size and then start burning a new rod.
What causes that polarity shift in magnetism?
It's the way the rod is magnetized in the fuel processor. And it describes the burn-in cycle on the plans there. So we put the rod in here, put the spacer, and then we put the T on the other end.
Do you need a spacer on both ends?
Yeah.
You don't have to have anything in it to keep the rod centered?
Yeah, there's a wire, there's twisty wire on both ends.
Centered up and down in the pipe.
No, the rod will center by itself. It'll levitate once it starts running. Or you can put 3 spot welds around it and then file them down so it just barely fits in the pipe. That's another method to do it with. Put the put your half-inch ball valves. I like the B&K brand. They tend to be a better valves than other brands I've seen. Put your muffler on. This is one of the valves you can delete if you don't want to use it.
You just connect the muffler directly to the pipe.
Yeah. Put your other valves on here. We use a clamp here that is basically made for hanging water pipes from the ceiling. Works out great for a mount to hold this thing down.
Can you hook the governor up to that system or is it not like it?
There's a governor on the engine, but I don't use it. If you look at the other lawnmower out front, they basically used the carburetor that came with the engine and put a washer in it to cut down the throat size. It's about half of the original size.
Why did you do that?
Because it's too much fuel. You have to cut back the fuel about 50%. One other change to the free plans that I'm going to be putting on there shortly is I recommend using brass short nipples to connect stuff because they tend to rust real quick. And to make sure you put the black grill paint, high temperature grill paint on the pipes because they will rust very quickly also. No, the rod gets magnetized after running the engine for 30 minutes. Yeah, you can shorten it up once you know what the magnetism is for the fuel you're running. Yeah. And for the hose connectors, you can use half-inch to half-inch pipe barb or hose barb connectors. Those work out nice. Or you can just use a half-inch to a quarter reducer and then use a 3-inch nipple that's cut in half and screw that in, and that makes a nice half-inch fitting that you can put on your bubbler, like up here. Works out real nice. The pipe tends to be a little tough to bend. You can do it by hand. And just if you're having trouble finding these fittings, you should go to an air conditioning store. They tend to have this stuff readily available in stock. Your local hardware might not have that in stock. It just has to fit. It doesn't, there's no critical dimension on it now. So put that on. And put your other valve on. And then just tighten it up. The plans show to use a plastic 1-gallon antifreeze jug. If you're running a vacuum, though, you might find that if you get one of these, they're going to collapse on you because they don't have the stiffness to them. When I first used it, it worked fine, but after the gas has been sitting in it a while, it tends to get soft, and if I use it now, it'll just collapse under a vacuum. If you're running in a closed loop and you got positive pressure in there, it'll work fine. But I just switched over to the 1-gallon pickle jar last week, and that seems to be running real well. And the connections on that is basically just a short 1/4-inch pipe connection with a copper adapter from 1/2-inch or a 1/4-inch thread to 1/2-inch copper pipe. And then the other one you solder in a piece of pipe that will take it to the bottom here, and then you put a cap on the end. And the directions show I have 5 holes. This one has 4. I didn't put the one in the bottom center because it's just blowing right at the bottom. It really doesn't help anything. But you can use any size jar. You don't need to use a 1-gallon jar. Out front they use a quart jar, but you won't be able to run the engine as long. And this basically just connects up on here. We made a flywheel for this engine also. The one that's on there right now is about 1/4-inch thick and 8 inches in diameter, and it seems to be enough. to dampen out the pulses of the engine. But when I get back, we're going to be putting a 12-inch flywheel on for safety reasons. I don't like to have a blade on the demonstration motors when we're running them.
Okay, you put a flywheel underneath it.
Yeah, see the flywheel in there?
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah,
Where you have that option in your lumber jar there,
yeah.
what happens to your engine backfires? Will that does all the pieces?
This engine's never backfired.
What happens if it does?
I don't know. You could put a,
What if it's down around the bottom?
yeah, I could probably put a screen in there. You could either put a screen or a water, another
The exhaust
water
is
bubbler for it.
directly in there, one of those spark or something, the exhaust in there.
Yeah. It's got to have oxygen to burn, though.
It does have,
Yeah,
you've got 20% oxygen.
yeah,
Exhaust, not
that's true, yeah.
26,000 stainless steel screen will stop it,
26,000
or smaller.
stainless steel.
Start.
And when you go to start this thing, you want to have your muffler valve open, your rear engine valve shut, and both of these set about a quarter open. I mean halfway open. And if there's no leaks, it should fire right up. And you want to have the it pointed north, which it is here. We'll see what happens here.
What's pointing north?
Huh?
What is pointing north? The rod in the...
The rod.
rod.
And just keep adjusting them back and forth until you find the right spot where it catches.
Does it need to be primed?
No, should be okay. And outside it started up first pull. I don't know if it's because I took it apart or... another thing we were using, if you get tired of pull starting it, you could take the...
I think you got it pointed west.
Does it matter which way they...
well, the rod's already burned in, so it shouldn't matter on this one. That's open.
Matter which way the rod goes in?
Yes, it does matter. If you reverse the rod, the engine will not run.
Did you get it in right? The rod in right?
I'm pretty sure I put it in right. Yeah. Anyway, we took off the pull starter when we were doing the closed loop test, and there's a big nut on the top of the shaft there. We replaced that nut with a taller one because it's too flat of a nut, and that gives you a nice place you can put a 1/2-inch drill with a 3/4-inch socket on the end there, and that'll spin the engine right up. Don't use a 3/8-inch drill as we tried. It bogs the motor down too much. But a 1/2-inch drill will turn this engine all day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it's geared. 1/2-inch drills are geared down like 700-800 RPM, whereas 3/8-inch drills generally run about 2,500 RPM. Let me.
If your spark plug is called,
No, I never had a spark plug off. Huh? No. I don't need the other hose. Let me put it on the ground. Maybe that makes a difference. Can you grab that bubbler? Yeah, you could use a metal, a 1 gallon fuel can or something like that and just weld the connections in, or just do them the way I showed on the other jugs. I don't know why this isn't working. Well, I'll have to figure out what happened here, but it should be starting. Huh?
Nothing to do with Murphy, no doubt.
That's exactly, it's definitely Murphy, so.
You ever put pipe tape on the connections to make sure you don't have leaks?
It would probably help, wouldn't hurt anything. You just have to be worried about the temperature of them melting. So just put them in tight, and you don't have to worry about it. Do you have any other questions?
Where do you get these handouts?
We printed out a bunch here. Here's one. If you need, that's the last one I got here. If you need some, go back to our booth. We'll have some more printed up.
I didn't understand why the pipe had to be turned to the north. What does the north have to do with that?
Because that's the only way it works. I don't know.
Just for when you're burning, when you're cutting your lawn, that doesn't matter which way your lawnmower is facing, because you can go around and around.
You'll lose about 5% power or efficiency as you're turning west or south, but if you turn the unit straight up and down, it's always north.
So if it's mounted vertically.
If it's mounted vertically, yes, it'll always run it. Yeah.
Like I said, you put a little magnet up there to the end of it to make it north, no matter which way it's like.
Right.
There's a good idea.
Okay, we found the problem with the engine starting here. It turned out it was a vacuum leak, and that's one of the first things you check if you can't get the engine to run, is to, if you look at the bubbler, when I was pulling earlier, you see there was no bubbles being formed as I was trying to pull start the engine. So you start off by setting both valves at about half open, and we'll give another start here again. It fires right up. And there we go. And we'll now try to get it to go in closed loop once it warms up a little bit. There we go.
They just put the little coat hanger piece in there to keep it from sucking down to the end.
Right.
I know she put
There's a coat hanger on both ends.
Oh, there is?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't see that.
yeah. It's harder to get out the other end, so I only,
Figure out why it didn't start.
yeah. Yeah, it's a possibility. No. I have to check to make sure I put the rod in right. I might have put it in backwards.
What about throttling? You do that through a combination of opening and closing valves?
Yeah,
So you've got two air valves on there, right? One at this end and one at that end, and then one that controls fuel.
right,
So at any time one of those is open, you're getting air through one of those valves.
right.
So in your closed loop system, you're saying that both of those valves are closed and it's totally running off of air that it pulls from its own exhaust.
It's breathing its own exhaust, but I still have one of the air valves open at the back of the engine.
So it's getting oxygen there as well.
Right. I think it's mostly to equalize pressure because it's not breathing that much through there. Yeah.
What about the CO2 from combustion? What is that doing?
There's hardly any CO2 that comes out of this engine. If you go to the website and you look at the VW conversion we did last year, there's complete specs on before and after emission testing. And it shows what the CO2 and NOx and everything was before and after hydrocarbons.
And a fuel injection system be used instead of a carburetor?
Yes.
You can still do it with a fuel injection?
It would have to be made to work with the GEET system. You can't use the standard fuel injection system, no.
Okay, like if I want to put that on my car.
Right,
And it's fuel injection system, it has to be modified or?
right. Yep. Yeah.
What kind of increase in fuel efficiency do you see?
With gasoline, we're getting about double the gas mileage. Diesel's about triple. And the heavier the fuel, the more efficient it runs. Crude oil, we're getting up to a 10-fold increase in gas mileage. Yes?
Has anybody cut the lawn with this thing yet, or driven a diesel truck across country? Put a load in it?
I just cut grass with at my house before I came here, about a 20-foot square, and it was pretty high before I left. It's been raining a lot, so, but it went through it. Yeah. We have a tractor trailer. It's on the road right now with a conversion, doing testing.
Do you notice any loss of power with the system?
When I was running the engine, I could rev the engine up fast enough that I was afraid the engine was going to come apart. So I think I'm probably getting twice the power out of the engine I was getting before. So it's really revving up high. I don't know if that's just because the induction is, I've got a larger bore on the induction system, or it's just overkill in the size of the system I've got there, one or the other. So, but if you size the system properly, you can have the same or more power. Yeah.
So what's the primary set of principles that create this effect?
The way the system works is you have hot and cold exhaust gases, and cold intake gases passing each other in opposite directions in the inner and outer pipe. And as they pass each other, a static charge is generated, the same way a lightning bolt is generated in a thunderstorm. You have hot up and down drafts, hot and cold, and as they pass each other, it generates lightning bolts up to 1,000,000 volts. And what we're doing is we're generating a ball of lightning inside there, which forms a plasma ball. And as the gases pass through the plasma, they're transformed into hydrogen-rich synthetic natural gas, which burns super clean. And that's why we're getting the phenomenal results we're getting.
So you have a plasma converter, electrolytic plasma converter.
Next question? Yeah?
Can you explain why the buffer gets cool when you have a closed cycle and it gets hot in open cycle?
You got it backwards. It's in open cycle, it gets cold, and in closed cycle, it gets hot. The closed cycle, what we're doing is taking the exhaust and pumping it into the bubbler. So it's putting all that exhaust heat into the fuel. Under the open cycle, the bubbler is drawing a vacuum, and as the vacuum vaporizes the fuel, it cools down the jar, same the way air conditioning system works. Yes?
What variations in the fuels have you used?
What variations do we use of fuel? I've only been doing my tests on gasoline, but we have just about anything you could think of has been tested. They've put coffee, milk, 7-Up, transmission fluid, crude oil.
Does it actually work?
Oh yeah, the other engine out front is set up to try all that stuff. If you want to go out and if you've got something exotic you want to see if it'll run on, bring it by and we'll try it. We had a challenge at the Wisconsin Renewable Energy Show 2 years ago. You bring it, we'll burn it. So, yes.
Would you know what parts you need extra to change this to fuel injection, or would you have to think about it?
It would depend on the car that has what type of fuel injection, and it would probably be easier just to bypass the fuel injection system and put a standard GEET conversion on, or just disable it and save the parts if you ever want to go back or whatever.
Are there people doing the conversions for fuel injection vehicles?
We are starting our installation school just last month, and it's starting up again next month or next week in Salt Lake City. The installer classes will be for 5 days. They'll cost $1,500, and you start in the first day and you do 8 hours of theory with Paul Pantone. He goes through all the different anomalies, how the engine operates under, I think there's 32 different anomalies that he explains on the engine. The next day, you walk into the shop and you're presented with a brand new lawnmower and a pile of parts, and you put together a lawnmower conversion right there, and you have a catered lunch by a very good chef that's from the local area there, and you do your conversion. If you like what you see and you decide you want to keep it for yourself, you can purchase it at a reduced rate, or it goes back out on the showroom and is sold to the public. The next day he brings in a 5 kW generator. Same thing, you put together that thing and test run it. You hook it up to the analyzers and fine tune it in, and you can see it run everything. The next day you get to do a furnace application.
Natural gas or oil?
I'm not sure which one he's using. I haven't been to the class yet. That's next on my list. The fourth day you do a automobile, and the fifth day you get to do a tractor trailer. So you'll have done everything from a lawnmower all the way up to a tractor trailer by the end of the week, and you can go home and start installing them.
Could have auto mechanic experience?
It probably wouldn't hurt, because you are going to have to do some, minor modifications on some of the equipment you're working on. Yes?
When you put that on a car, do you usually feed the exhaust back into the engine there, like you do here?
No, that's only an R&D situation. So far I've only found that the closed loop will only run at a certain speed, and I can't get it to throttle up and down. So unless it's a fixed RPM application, like if you're turning an alternator to charge batteries or something. I haven't done any load test on it or fuel consumption test. It might get better, it might get worse gas mileage, I don't know. But it's just something neat to be able to prove that the exhaust is clean enough it can breathe its own exhaust. or a lawnmower application, if we can get it so it runs reliably with the closed loop, then we can set up, do lawnmowers and stuff like that, where it doesn't really matter the speed.
Generators?
Or generators, yeah. Yes?
When you use the term plasma, are you talking about the monatomic gases, that level once everything gets going, elemental hydrogen, elemental oxygen, or help me out with the term?
I'm not a physicist, so I'm not sure myself. It does break it down into the lower elements, though. The plasma, you're getting predominantly hydrogen, some helium, oxygen, all the lighter gases is mostly what we're getting out of it. A little propane, methane, stuff like that. Yes?
When you run a closed loop, you're probably what limits the speed that makes it more constant is the holes in the bubblers. They're only so big. You gotta pass everything through those little holes.
Right.
Big cost.
That could be a limiting factor, yes. It's just like on a carburetor. They size the throw of the carburetor depending on the airflow of the engine. And
Maximum.
so it'll maximize the power you can pull out of the engine.
Also, you use that fuel already quite a bit to run your engine on out there, have you?
Yeah.
So all the lighter ether stuff you've already burned off from it.
Yes.
That may be why it's not starting. You might need to put a little bit of fresh gas in it.
Yeah, I just added a little fresh gas to it before I came in here. But maybe the fresh gas messed it up. I don't know. Who knows? Yes?
You mentioned yesterday that after you've been running for a while under the closed loop, that it gets loaded down with paraffin.
Right?
Does that get recirculated back through the system and burned?
It gets, once it's all converted to paraffin, it'll shut down. So I don't know why it does that. That's another thing that needs to be investigated. But supposedly Paul said that the paraffin actually has more energy in it than the original gasoline. So
I missed that question, something about paraffin.
in the closed loop, we discovered that the engine generates paraffin in the bubbler, and once all the fuel was gone, you're left with paraffin in the jar.
So if you're just running gasoline in it and it's an open system, it will burn all the gasoline that's in the jar?
Yes.
As long as you don't have too much in it.
Right. If you get it too full and it starts splashing up into the intake hose, then you're going to start getting those big puffs of smoke, and the engine's going to run erratically, because the engine will not run if the rod gets wet. And I have that in the plans there also, that if you accidentally bump your bubbler and it spills gasoline in the hose and it starts running out your washers on either end, then you know you got to disassemble the whole thing and check it or dry it out, because you're just wasting your time trying to start it.
Is
Yes?
it practical to use a gas tank as a bubbler? It becomes standard on a new lawnmower?
I have seen that done, yes. You can use that. The problem with it is it's more of a horizontal tank rather than a vertical, and you'll probably tend to get more splashing in it.
Bubbles will climb up in a wave in a tank, they will go up so high.
Well, when you start your school, how are you going to solve that problem so the lawnmower is usable and saleable to the public?
That's not my department.
It won't start, it won't start.
Yes.
Is there a choke on there? Can you choke it with something?
What I do is I just put my fingers over the end of the pipe to choke it. That usually works pretty well.
Have you attempted to measure the voltage or the current or power, electrical power output?
Of the plasma reaction chamber, we have had people that take a coil of wire and wrap it around the plasma chamber and then hook it up to their multimeter and turn it on, and it immediately fries the meter, so I don't know. It's putting out way beyond what it can handle. We've just had a breakthrough on that, what we do is we keep the stock diesel system on the engine, and we start it on the original plugs, or glow plug and injectors, and that circuit is powered by the starter motor circuit. So when you're turning the key, the injectors work, and as soon as you let go of the key, the injectors shut off, and it's on the GEET gas from there on.
Do you get 3 times better mileage?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They work on a big diesel engine too?
Yep. The biggest engine that we've converted so far is a 14,000-pound Waukesha diesel. It puts out 250 kilowatts.
Okay, we got 6 of them for 250 kilowatt generators.
Yeah. Waukeshas?
I don't know, I've never seen them.
Yeah.
They're pretty old, I know that, but the government of Vanuatu gave us 6 of them. They put it out of service in 1965, they were all working fine.
Yeah. Are they gas or diesel? Natural gas?
What kind of engines they are.
Yeah.
I've never seen them.
Yeah.
You don't have to warm up the reactor tube? Don't have to run the diesel long enough to warm up the reactor tube?
No. It only takes a couple seconds for it to warm up to operating temperature to operate. There's a question over here. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a small Detroit diesel.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to buy one, get triple the mileage. How do I get it done?
We're going to be doing Detroit diesels here very shortly. You should contact Paul if you're interested in that application. It's a tractor trailer?
That's a little motorhome.
Oh, motorhome. Okay. Well, maybe bring it by the shop while they're doing a class on Fridays, and maybe they'll do yours as one of the projects.
Friday,
In Salt Lake City. That's any week. They're starting the classes next week, so every week, yeah. Yeah. Well, in a diesel engine, it doesn't have a throttle plate, so you'd have to add a throttle plate and a air mixture valve to it, or just use a standard air management valve that we make, which has both valves in it together. You'll see that out on a table. It's an aluminum block with one hole in each end and with the one in the bottom.
You can go and feed it with the throttle plate here.
Right.
They run pretty high manifold after.
I don't know. I haven't worked on the diesels, so.
so
Yeah.
there's been enough testing so that it's relatively trouble-free to put it on your own vehicle and plan on using it daily basis.
They had the Volkswagen Bug here last year, and I took a ride in it. And Mike Huller put the key in, fired right up, put it in gear, and we started out. No hesitation, no backfire. It ran smooth and had normal acceleration. We drove all around and came back, and I couldn't tell the difference between it and a standard car.
Yeah, I was inquiring about the trucks that are being tested now.
Oh, the truck, you have to ask Paul. I'm not involved with that.
How much mileage do you get with that Volkswagen?
It was just about double what the original was.
Originally, what was it, about 60, so it's now 120?
No, Bug's only got about 23 miles a gallon. I think it was up to like 45 or something. We were.
My big Buick, you got that from. Like the 37 was by standard V8 engine Buick.
Yeah. Well, air-cooled engines are not very efficient. Is there any more people that got here late that didn't get a handout?
Yes. I'd like
If you want to hand these out to people? Thank you. If you miss out on the handouts or want to see the color pictures or more detail, you can go to the website at www.friend.ly.net/GEET in capital letters GEET /plans.htm, or they'll be on the handout. It's right, should be right on the bottom edge of your handout. It's printed out right on there. Or if you're interested, we also have color diagrams like what's on the top of the plans there for sale that are already blown up and printed and laminated for $10. It'd save you a lot of time and effort trying to do it yourself. Also, I'll be transferring my website over to a new address next week, and the new address will be www.geet.net. And that'd be a lot easier to find. And then just click on the free plans from there, and that'll get you back to the same address I just read off earlier. The main company web address is geet.com, and that's where you'll find the latest information on the school. Yes?
I have a two-cycle lawnmower. Will it also work on that?
No, a two-cycle engine, you mix the oil with the gas, and with the GEET fuel processor, you'll burn up your oil as fuel, and you won't have any lubrication. The engine will seize up.
If you did a closed loop, though, the oil would still keep going through.
No, it'll burn it up. I don't recommend it.
What kind of engine is that?
That's a four-cycle engine.
Four-cycle engine?
Yes, it has separate oil from the gas. You don't mix your gas and oil. As long as it has a separate lubrication system, you're okay.
So one cylinder could be a four-cycle engine.
Right. Yeah.
You mentioned with the brakes and strapping engine, you would use two hose clamps for the engine inlet. What kind of hose would you use?
I'm just using a half-inch vinyl hose here. We burned up one of the hoses yesterday. We were running so much in closed loop that somebody gave me another hose here. It's braided and it looks more substantial, so it seems to be holding up pretty well. Yes? Used a what? Yeah, no, it'll burn that. It'll burn the Marvel oil up also as fuel. Well, then you lose your emissions. So you might be able to use it as fuel, but you won't have any emission control then. You won't get the 95% reduction in emissions. I just don't recommend a two-cycle engines at this time until we've done some more testing. And that's kind of a low priority for us right now until we get the other trucks and cars on the road.
There's only one car engine I can think of that you're thinking to do two-cylinder, so you better watch out for that. This is one
Yeah.
car engine out there.
Yeah. So like I said, it's the priority is so low is it probably already gets pretty good gas mileage anyway.
Tremendous mileage.
Yeah.
Which car is that has a two-cycle engine?
There is one out there. It's
Two-cycle or two-cylinder?
two-cycle.
Which one is it?
Not sure.
There used to be a Honda
It might be.
car that had a motorcycle engine in it back in the early 70s. I don't know. They only built them for a couple years. That's probably what you're thinking of.
No, it's an experimental one I saw yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if it reached the market or not.
Yeah. Is there any other questions? No more questions? Okay. Yeah? The oil injected is, where's the oil injected into? The carburetor? Right at the intake port? It'll probably work for the fuel part, but once again, it's not going to help the emissions any. Okay, I guess anybody else? I guess that's it. If you have any more questions, we also have a news group on the internet. We have several hundred people that are building these engines, and they're trying all kinds of different ideas and exchanging information and putting questions out to the group, see if anybody else has tried something, and it's a pretty lively discussion. If you want to get the answers anything you want to do. Unfortunately, we can't set up a hotline to answer questions about this. We're giving away the plans for free, and your best way is to address questions to the news group, and somebody that probably has already been down a path you're trying to go, so that'll be a big help for you.
Are the plans for the diesel conversion also on the free website?
No, if any other engines are all for plans that will be sold through Paul or GEET International.
Oh, the lawnmower, the only free one?
Yeah, the lawnmower is the only free plans we give away.
Right.
Yes.
Are you gonna take that outside and find out what's wrong with it and get it started?
Yeah. As soon as we're done here, we'll take it out front and start it up.
You'd like to watch it start.
Yeah, so would I.
Did you have to kick it?
Yeah, that's probably what it needs. So, anybody else? Okay, I guess that wraps it up then. And we'll move the discussion outside.